31 Days of Halloween continues here at Watkins Films. Now, I'm not going to be doing 31 review videos during this season, or am I? Probably not. But I'm just pointing out that we are within the Halloween season, and there's 31 days in this month. So what we are going to talk about today is Night of the Living Dead, the 1990 remake directed by Tom Savini. And we're going to take a look at this gorgeous new 4K UHD Steelbook, this 35th anniversary edition that has 2 cuts to the movie. And we're going to talk about those cuts. We're going to talk about this new 4K transfer. I'm going to talk about the plot somewhat and my impressions of it the first time I saw it and upon this revisit. And we're also going to take a closer look at this Steelbook. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Go ahead and like this video. This Steelbook was released by Sony Pictures. Now, they previously have released this to Blu-ray, and I don't have a copy of that Blu-ray, and Umbrella Entertainment also released, I think, the same transfer. But from what I've read, it's a pretty decent transfer. There's a 4K and a Blu-ray disc in this set, and we're going to take a look at that here in just a bit. Now, again, this was directed by Tom Savini, who is a longtime friend and collaborator of George Romero. George Romero directed the original Night of the Living Dead, which this is the one that kind of started the zombie genre and catapulted it into what it is today. But George Romero not only directed this one, he also wrote, this is based on his original script, but he updated the script in a fairly... The movie is very similar to the first one, but he did update it in some places, which we'll pinpoint those here in just a bit. Now, this is a Criterion Collection 4K UHD release of the original Night of the Living Dead, and this is also a damn fine release, if I will point out. Now, another influence of Night of the Living Dead, which is essentially, it takes place in a farmhouse, and a bunch of people are trapped inside this farmhouse, and they're being besieged by zombies during the zombie apocalypse. And so basically, it's got a location, you got people inside who are being targeted by something on the outside. Now, this was influenced, the original Night of the Living Dead, and of course this one too, was influenced by Rio Bravo, starring John Wayne, directed, also Dean Martin, and directed by Howard Hawks. Which this one also, this movie also has kind of a follow-up by Howard Hawks, also starring John Wayne, called El Dorado, that instead of Dean Martin in that one has Robert Mitchum. But it kind of the same sort of scenario happens where these lawmen who have to trying to bring this guy to justice, have his gang surrounds them outside of a police station, and then they're inside of a police station, holed up in there, and their different personalities clash with each other during the course of the film. And the same thing, John Carpenter also directed another one, like in the 80s or late 70s. When did he do this? It was 1976. John Carpenter directed Assault on Precinct 13, which has is basically a very similar script than Rio Bravo, where this one takes place inside of a police station, which that one's very similar, but this was kind of a remake of that. But this also pulls from the original Night of the Living Dead. There's a Barbara character. She's kind of the character we follow at the beginning of this film, but she becomes, like, after her brother's killed and she gets into the farmhouse, she kind of becomes catatonic and is in that kind of state for most of the film. They did that in Assault on Precinct 13, but they did it with an older guy character who his daughter is shot by this gang of thugs, and then he goes to the police station, and he from the trauma that he eventually does that catatonic state, unable to move, sort of baby behavior, reverting to baby behavior. Now, thankfully, and that's one of the improvements they did. Now, I'm not against that thought, because a very traumatic experience could put somebody in the fetal position, and I'm not against it. I do like it that John Carpenter basically went with an older guy instead of going with a female character with his. But here they take the Barbara character and they kind of turn her into the protagonist of the film, and she starts out kind of mousy, the way she's dressed, and she's got glasses and this really uptight kind of dress on. And throughout the film, there is a point in the film where she seems like she's going to go into that catatonic state, like Barbara did in the original one, but she overcomes it, and as the film progresses, she becomes more of a survivor, and she becomes more empowered, and to the point where she's able to fight these zombies better than most of the other characters in the film. So I really like that they improved upon her character, and she's the only character in this film that is different, looks different than the original film. Almost all the rest of the cast members were cast with very similar body types, and the way that the people look are very similar. There's 7 main characters. Well, there's 7 characters who are holed up inside of this farmhouse. One of them is the daughter of this one couple who's been bitten by a zombie, and she's kind of laid up on the table almost the whole film. She's been bitten, and during the course of the film, of course, she becomes a zombie. Oops, I may have spoiled something, but we all knew that was going to happen anyway. But the main idea, though, is you got a group of people in this place, different points of view on how they think they need to be dealing with it, and there's conflict within the house. Now, some of that conflict is kind of obnoxious. There is one character who is more obnoxious than any of the others, and his name is Harry Cooper. And when the first 2 characters we're introduced to are Barbara. Of course, if you've ever seen the original one, the same thing plays out. She's with her brother in the cemetery, and they do a little something different here, where in the cemetery, a guy walks up who you think's a zombie at first, but it's really like someone who's in the cemetery who's been attacked, and he's got some damage to his head, and he talks. And at first you're like, the zombies talk in this one, but no, they don't talk. That guy's not a zombie. But then a real zombie jumps in, busts in, and attacks her. Her brother tries to pull her off, and then the zombie ends up attacking his brother and attacking her brother and killing him. The brother's played by Bill Moseley, and he does a really good job. He does a similar job to the guy in the first one. He does a very nice job of kind of doing what that character did, and he looks a lot like him too, the way they have him dressed up. But then Barbara escapes all that, eventually comes to the farmhouse, encounters some zombies in the farmhouse, tries to run. That's when Tony Todd's character shows up, Ben. Now, Ben was played by Dwayne Jones in the first one, they're both black actors, and so I think for the original one, it was a very empowering thing for a black actor to be playing this Ben character, who is a guy who is kind of the hero of the story, especially in the first one. He's definitely the hero of that one, since Barbara is like catatonic most of the time, but he kind of is a take charge guy, and here Tony Todd, I think most of us know him, and he did recently pass away, unfortunately, but he was a fantastic actor, and he does a great job in this. It's one of his best performances, but we all know him from Candyman in its sequel. So Candyman, and I think he's in 2. I know he was in 2 and 3, and he also appears briefly in the remake, and he's also in The Crow. But he's really good in his character, especially in the first part of it, when he tells this very emotional story about how he first encountered the zombies to Barbara. Now, as it goes on, he does, and it's not his performance, it's the way the character is. The character is kind of obnoxious because he is really wanting to be in charge. He's got something in his head where he feels like he has to be in charge. The guy in the basement that comes up, the Harry Cooper character, that guy his idea is he wants to stay in the basement. He wants everybody to go in the basement, and they're going to lock the basement up, and they're all going to be safe down there, which I don't think is a very good idea, even though maybe it might have worked. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it would have, but it seems a little dangerous to be kind of like sealed up in a basement. If the door to the basement failed, you'd be completely screwed. Like the Ben character, on the other hand, wants to stay upstairs and board up everything and try to secure the farmhouse the best that they can, and as a last resort, go down to the basement. And there's a couple other important characters here. There's Tom and his girlfriend Judy, who come up from the basement. They're like part of that group, but they actually knew the people who lived in the house, and they're from this town that they're in. And also the Harry's wife, Helen, who's trying to serve as an intermediate between the two groups during the course of the film, and she's also tending to her sick daughter. So that's kind of how the basis for the characters, and it's a good dynamic between. Really, we see like those 6 characters. There's a good dynamic between them, though it is kind of frustrating seeing them argue about this stuff so much. And the Harry character in particular, most people, I think, by the end of this are really going to hate that guy because he's so pig-headed, and he does such such obnoxious, self-centered things throughout the film. So let's go ahead and take a look at this steelbook. There it is. This is the original artwork from the first poster. Now there is a J card that comes with it. You can also use for white balancing. On the back side of it, there's what it looks like. And then here on the front it says 35th Anniversary Edition. Includes the uncensored version of the film. First time ever. And this is also the first time ever for the 4K transfer. Here's the back of it. We have this zombie here that appears near the end of the film. Now, a couple of things I was going to say about the movie. Now, you do see the zombies a pretty good bit. Now, you ask, why does a remake of this film, the original film that's beloved, why does a remake need to exist? And a couple of reasons. One, it's in color. It could be in color because the original one's black and white. And two, you get to update some of the character stuff, which George Romero did. But you can also add, in which they do, they add more graphic violence and more zombie. The zombie makeup looks better. The special effects look better than the original one. Even though there is, as you can see here, there is an uncensored and a regular version. So and really, if you're watching the regular version, even to me, the uncensored version, it doesn't seem as gruesome or as graphic as they could have gone with it. But apparently they were having to contend with some censors, because they even censored it to the point they had to put out both cuts. But it doesn't seem as extreme as it could have gotten. And that's probably just because they were having to deal with censors. On the inside of this steelbook, we have a digital code, which I will be removing. And here's what the inside of it looks like. We have 2 discs. We have a Blu-ray and a 4K. On the 4K and the Blu-ray, there are 2 versions of the film. There's the unrated cut and the theatrical cut. What's the difference in them? There's a little bit of a difference. There's a few minutes difference. But there is some graphic violence, like say a zombie's head gets blown off, which looks pretty cool. And then there's another zombie that gets shot in the head, and you see more splatter behind him. And you see a lot of more like that sort of thing, like more zombies getting shot more graphically. There's some like additional violence in the film, which I approve of. I think it's an improvement to add that to it, but it doesn't necessarily make it that big of a difference in the film. And there's the 4K, and here's the Blu-ray. It does have a different cover. It has that zombie again with the doll. Here's the inside of it. We see more zombies on the inside. Here's a zombie here that comes in and gets shot in the head. That's one of the ones where there's an added special effect in the unrated cut. So let's go ahead and I'm going to read a little bit about the special features on here. Now, the special features exist mostly on the Blu-ray. There is a commentary on the 4K. The 4K has a commentary, is an archive commentary with director Tom Savini. And that commentary is cool because he does talk a lot about the special effects in the film. And it's interesting the way that he talks about the process, not necessarily the process, but if you know about how when you're shooting films and the special effects, it's nice to know what he says makes complete sense to me. But it's some good ideas involved with the way that they handled some of the special effects. And there's commentary on both of them. I guess on the commentary for the uncensored version, it also has a moderator. On the Blu-ray version, that's where most of the special features are. It has both versions of the film, which look to me to be the same transfer, and it looks very similar. The difference between the Blu-ray and the 4K is there is an HDR grading on the 4K that it makes the black levels look deeper, and it makes the skin tones look a little more vibrant. So on the Blu-ray disc, the commentaries are back on there, but there's also there's new featurettes that some of them are produced from this, some of them are coming from 2016, but there's an interview with Patricia Tallman, who plays Barbara, and Bill Moseley, and there's several other interviews on here, and it's a very nice array of special features, some of them new, some of them from 2016, and there's also an archival one at the end of all these, which I think it's a pretty impressive amount of special features. Now, as far as the way that this film looks, this is a great release. I really like the 4K transfer here. Now, the movie was shot on film. You do see that film grain, but it's nicely preserved. It doesn't look to be digitally scrubbed. It doesn't look like there's any enhancement or sharpening. Now the things it does look sharp for the most part on the faces, but it doesn't look like it was added sharpening to it, which which would make it look a little it would make it look sharper, but it also makes it look more plasticky. The grain may be distracting to you, but for the most part, you're not going to notice it. In the darker areas of the film, when they're outside or if they're in dark, shadowy areas of the farmhouse, those dark areas, there is grain there, like maybe swirling around a little bit, but it still looks very, very pleasing to me, and it's not distracting to me. I think that it really captures those dark areas, and as far as the clarity and the fine detail, it is there. And the way that this was shot was some pretty like the lenses often are. You see some soft focus occasionally, but most of the time they're doing some racks and things of that nature. So the focus isn't necessarily. It looks very filmic. It's not going to be distracting to you if there is a soft focus, because it's not going to be crystal crispy clean on those, and it's kind of the point of some of it, because it's trying to give you kind of a dirtier look, and it kind of to really amp up the tension of the farmhouse and the inside of. Even on the outside, when they go out and closer to the end, you see more exterior night scenes. And as far as the grading, the skin tones, they look natural to me, depending on the lighting. I mean, some of you got outside lighting, but and overall, I think it has a very nice look. Even like some of those colors do kind of pop out on this 4K, especially with the HDR grading. But it is a little subdued on purpose, but considering the nature of the film and what they're trying to accomplish and what they do accomplish for the most part. As far as the audio is concerned, I did watch this on a mono television. Everything sounded pretty clean to me, but I'm going to read a little bit about what's included here in case you're popping it into some kind of surround sound or something like that. So it says. It's English Dolby Atmos, Dolby True HD 7.1 compatible, and this is English 5.1 DTS-HDMA, English 2-channel surround DTS-HDMA on the theatrical version only. So it looks like it's got some impressive sound specs there if you have that surround sound system. But as far as the way that it sounded through the mono speaker on my television, everything sounded terrific as far as I could tell. I did watch it with the subtitles, so maybe it could have been the subtitles were making me understand what was being heard. And as far as I could tell, the audio sounded great. Now, and one other thing about the unrated version, that's the one I watched first, and I looked at the theatrical version later just to kind of see if there was a difference. They look to be the same transfer. They both look really good. But when it first starts out on the unrated version, it's in black and white. And when I started watching, I was like, wow, I don't remember this being in black and white. That's because it's something what he wanted to do. It starts out in black and white. They drive into the cemetery, and it's not until you see the first real zombie that boom, it changes the color. So that was kind of an interesting thing that they did for the unrated cut. I thought that was it's pretty creative. As far as my impression from the first time I saw this film and my impression upon rewatching it, I liked it okay the first time I saw it. Now, I didn't think it differed enough from the first film to, but at the same time, I did not like it. I just thought maybe they could have maybe bumped it up a little bit and made it a little bit different. But they do make it more gruesome, and they do improve the Barbara character. And Tony Todd is really terrific, as is Patricia Tallman in this film. And really all the actors like do a really good job with their parts. So upon rewatching it, I kind of felt a little bit of the same, but I think this is a really well done movie. Now, the parts that kind of annoy me is just the too much of this back and forth and arguing, but I get it. They're trying to build tension in this building and within this farmhouse, and they're being like ransacked by zombies. But some of that is annoying to me. But overall, I really enjoyed the film. With that being said, let's go ahead and rate it. I'm going to rate the film on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. I'm going to give Night of the Living Dead 1990, the remake, I'm going to give this a 3.5-star rating. As far as the way that as far as the transfer and this new steelbook, I'm going to give it a 4-star rating. I think they did a really terrific job with this release. And as far as getting this release, unfortunately, right now it doesn't seem to be available. I did see an announcement that there's possibility of it becoming available again, like they're printing some more of them back in a few months, maybe in November or something to that nature. But looks like they are going to be releasing some more of it. But right now, their scalpers are trying to get like triple or quadruple the price for it. But anyway, let me know if you've seen this new 4K transfer or even the film itself. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. And if you haven't done so already, if you would subscribe to my channel, and you see this box right here, if you click on that, it's going to bring you to another one of my videos. So you can check that out, another one of my review videos. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Thanks for watching.